and then
Educational content.
I walked to, I had like bleachers in the middle of the playground so I could see my kids, and I didn't make it there until Coach Gonzales picked up his radio and started yelling for us to get inside.
For educational content containing this kind of violent or graphic content noted above, this content must appear in the images or audio of the video itself. Providing it in the title or description is insufficient. Welcome to True Crime and Celebrity News. If live breaking news and following true crime is your thing, then please consider subscribing to my channel, and if you like what you see in my videos, please consider giving my videos a thumbs up.
Good morning, true crime friends. Sorry I extended the time from 9 to 11. Was having a little bit of a rough morning. If you're here or on the replay, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what happened yesterday with the Adrian Gonzales. And I'm going to go over a little bit of the couple in Ohio. Maybe show the video, because now they're just saying that the video of the guy walking down the street is just somebody they want to talk to. Because maybe they seen who might have come out or in the house before the couple was unalived. But the Adrian Gonzales case, man, that's wow. So do you think he's going to get a mistrial? They're going to convene today. I am not sure what time. If I see it and catch it, I will definitely go live. I tried Googling it, but they didn't have a time. If somebody has a time, let me know. Go over some of the stuff that I kind of read today. So the judge canceled Wednesday's testimony in the trial of Adrian Gonzales, the first law enforcement officer facing trial for the botched response to the 2022 shooting at Robb Elementary. The judge will address legal matters after a key witness changed testimony, and the defense claimed the prosecution failed to disclose exploratory evidence. So what happened is the teacher that was on the stand gave a different testimony yesterday than she did in front of the grand jury. She never mentioned that she saw the shooter at the south end of the school. So that makes a big difference in the case. A big, big difference. And I think it deserves a mistrial and they need to start over. So let's watch some of the news stuff that came out along with it. It's just too bad that, this case had to start off like this. These children that lost their lives need justice. And the two teachers. And the husband that died of a heart attack after he found out his wife died. So, all right, here we go.
So you see him shooting at children, and then what happened?
And then I just remember him going to the classrooms, and he started shooting in window by window until he got to the door where he walked in through. At that point, I just, was begging 911 to please get officers out there. And then I saw a police officer arrive, and I was telling him he entered through that door. That's the door that he entered through.
Oh my God! Look, he jumped into the schoolyard. Into the schoolyard? Yes, he just jumped up on the fence. He's running toward the school. He's wearing black. There's kids out there, please. Lord, please, we're taking you. Oh God, in the name of Jesus.
So the testimony that you're going to hear right now is the teacher that changed her testimony from the grand jury to yesterday.
What did you do after the awards?
We went back to the classroom for a little bit, and then until it was time for them to go to rotation at the library. After I dropped them off, I went to a math interventionist room until it was time to pick my kids up from the library, and I actually picked them up about 10-15 minutes early that day so we could have extra recess.
What is it that disturbs your playground activity?
We heard sounds, and to me, I thought they were fireworks. And then I walked to, they had like bleachers in the middle of the playground so I could see my kids, and I didn't make it there until Coach Gonzales picked up his radio and started yelling for us to get inside.
Okay. So the combination of hearing these fireworks from Coach Gonzales, did you draw a conclusion from that?
Yes.
And what was that?
That there was gunfire. As we were all running into the classroom, I saw I don't know what to call him, horrible person, walking.
Just take your time. We can hold on.
Walking towards the door.
Can you describe him for us?
He had all black, long hair, and a gun.
At some point, you were relieved or you evacuated. Is that
Yes.
correct? Tell us about that.
We kept hearing knocking on the door, and we were taught, don't answer the door. Somebody will come in and get you. But after several times knocking, and again, I was on the opposite side of the room. One of the teachers, she peeked open the curtain to see, I guess, who it was. And it was law enforcement. And so at that point, she opened the door. They came and said, we're going to move you guys to the parking lot. We sat there for a little bit and then ended up going to an empty field off of campus. And while we waited for buses, I still at this point didn't have all of my students. And so I gathered the ones that I did have. And I told them, stay here. We're not getting on this bus. And waited.
For what?
For the rest of my kids.
Okay. Oh yeah, this was the.
We're very, very concerned because this is very out of character. And we can't get into.
I don't know why I jumped to that video. Oh, I don't know why it does that. We're not going to that story yet. We've got, I think, some bad weather coming. Nick Rayner's arraignment was today also. I forgot about that. I didn't feel very good this morning. I think it's my shot that's doing it. Okay, stop sharing because apparently it's not going to work. I can't get to my playlist. There we go. There we go. And then she pops right up after I.
Yes, Cynthia, this is a very big deal. The last witness was a teacher who testified differently than she has testified before or has given any kind of statements. And so the defense attorneys came out just a little while ago because her testimony basically puts the shooter on the same side as their client, Adrian Gonzales, on the same side of the school, which is part of the defense, that there was no one that Adrian Gonzales never saw the shooter. So the fact that this witness now comes out after 4 years and says, oh no, I did see him there on the same side of the school is a big deal, because the defense thinks either the witness changed her testimony or that the prosecutors knew how she was going to testify and didn't give that information to the defense, which is called a Brady violation. It's exculpatory evidence, and they're going to have to decide if they are going to want to declare a mistrial. There's going to be a big hearing tomorrow about this with the judge. It is a very big deal and could lead possibly to a mistrial or sanctions against people. So we'll see what happens. But I will tell you, I was inside the courtroom when they played that 911 tape earlier, and it was extremely emotional. The families have waited for this for a long time. And one thing that everyone agrees with that was in that courtroom is that once you listen to this testimony, no one is ever going to be the same. The first day of testimony in Adrian Gonzales' criminal trial unfolded inside this courtroom filled with grief. Families of the children and teachers killed at Robb Elementary sat just feet from the man prosecutors say failed to act to save their children. Jurors heard a 911 call from a pastor working at a nearby funeral home and watched the shooter crash his vehicle and then walk to the school, firing his weapon. Adrian Gonzales was played and families and jurors wept. Prosecutors say Gonzales was one of the first officers to arrive. They walked jurors through what happened, arguing the gunman fired dozens of rounds outside classroom 111 and 112.
The children in 111 and 112 are done as they're trained. In the dark, lights off, be quiet, hide, and wait for Adrian Gonzales.
Defense attorneys urged jurors not to rush to judgment, saying this case is not about evil, but about fairness, and warning against making their client a scapegoat.
Because evil is not rectified with injustice. Pure evil visited that precious community. It did. But it's not rectified with injustice.
Outside the courtroom, families spoke through tears, some saying the drive to court felt endless, knowing they would hear details they had waited years to confront.
Hearing the details and everything, I cannot imagine what it's going to be like, but I can't imagine what it was like being in that classroom and watching this thing take place and the survivors listening to obviously the bullets.
We've been here waiting nearly 4 years.
Others told jurors and the public that this case is about accountability and about the time they believe was lost.
There was time to stop him. Adrian could have stopped him. If he's the first one that was there, he could have stopped him.
Rebecca, you are so close to the victims' families there in the courtroom. Do you get a sense that this is even more difficult for them than maybe even they anticipated?
I believe so, because they had never heard that 911 tape before prior to today. So they were, some of them were actually sobbing and had to be consoled by some of the victims' counselors. And also, they were very disturbed by what happened there with the last witness. Can you imagine? They've waited 4 years. And if the defense gets a mistrial, if the judge grants a mistrial, they have to wait longer for this case to then be retried. And so everything right now is hanging in the balance for these families that have wanted justice for so long, you guys.
All right. A lot at stake on both sides, obviously, right now. Thank you, Rebecca.
All right. They have the lawyers speaking also. I had that video playing in the background. I didn't even know. Oh, there we go. I found them. Okay.
It's an emotion. He's going to review the notes that you guys heard and saw, and then we'll make our arguments. We have decisions to make. Our client has a decision to make, and then he'll make his ruling after we hear arguments from both sides.
Jason, how surprised were you at the difference in the statement?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's happening to us in real time as the witness is on the stand. So I don't know. You probably could see that after she started testifying, I started looking back at the paralegal, and it just started going back and forth, and talking to Nico, because we had never seen anything like that before in anything we've had. Obviously, we've been going over this case for almost 2 years, and so yeah, it was surprising. And so then I said, well, let's question her and see. It'd been important, but she said, well, yeah, I've been telling them. And then the prosecutor says, oh yeah, she's been telling us. That's having an issue, obviously, because the law of Texas is if they're just telling them that, they just tell us.
Tell us what the issue is with the statements. What are the differences?
Well, I think we kind of went over it, but there are some inconsistent statements that she has that meet this habit. But primarily, the witness testified that she saw the shooter and saw a person matching the description of the shooter on the south side of the building, which is where what an opening statement we talk about, or where we all agree that Adrian drove to when he thought that he was encountering the shooter or somebody with the shooter. He drove there, and that's what happened in open statement. But having this witness who has never said that before to us and only to them, that's what was shocking to us, and that does affect our trial.
Yeah, so it was surprised. So she testifies for the first time. It's the first time we heard it. The part that was bothering to us, troubling, I think, to most people that were watching, is that she said this in the sound effect. It's like 2 years for the first time in trial. It was nothing that we've seen before in discovery. That she has said this before. That's trial preparation, and it's a critical issue in the case. Location is a critical issue in the case, and what you're landing, Adrian saw it, didn't see. But then the problem that's more troubling is the fact that she told them in December, and they didn't know what to.
You think this was? You think it was just doing the Brady standard, and you can
and look at the analysis needs to be made. It falls under that umbrella, and so that's what's going to be argued tomorrow, and then the judge will make it.
It's because the belief is that this could potentially clear your client.
Well, it's not about that. If any evidence that bolsters the government's witness or could contradict their credibility, even is relevant for us.
And so I wasn't here in the beginning. So are you going to ask her in this trial?
We're can't disclose that right now. We have to. Is that something I would consider? It's a remedy allowed by law, and we're not saying that we're going to take that remedy or not, or argue to that remedy or not yet.
But it is something that's possible.
The judge had that available to him.
It is what the Brady violation is for people that don't know and why this might fit under Brady.
Well, it's exculpatory. So Brady covers exculpatory evidence, not just evidence that exonerates somebody, but could impeach a government witness to hurt their credibility. And in a case where credibility is really critical and it affects.
Okay, so the issue is her credibility here as well.
For this witness.
And then also the Michael Morton here in Texas too, but this train in as well.
Yes. So 3914, which is also the Michael Morton Act, Article 3914 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure says that the prosecution has to turn over everything that they have, including any statement that might be inconsistent with what a witness has said before. Obviously, what we showed is when the Rangers interviewed this witness 4 days after this happened, she never said that. And that's a pretty big deal if you saw somebody with a gun at your school matching that description. So when they said that, that's what we were arguing. And when she testified to that, I didn't know at the time that she had told the prosecution that, and they hadn't told us. And so I didn't know if this was something she's saying for the first time on the stand, or something she said to them before, when everybody clarified and agreed and admitted on the record that it was something that they had known and not told us. That's where we have this.
Mr. Mohammed, just as a defense lawyer, as an attorney, what I can say, what fruits have been used? To me, you seem really very concerned just from a professional.
Well, we only get one shot at this. I mean, this is not a game to us. I mean, Adrian's and the families of Uvalde, they they want closure too, and they deserve to know all the truth. This is not just about Adrian, it's about everybody, it's about that community. That's what it matters. I mean, this is a big deal. And so, if we're going to go back and we're going to strategize and talk and prepare the information the judge requested from us, and we'll make our arguments tomorrow, and the judge will make his ruling.
But certainly for the families, they've been devastating.
We're not contesting that. I think you saw that.
Yeah, but and then to have something like this today, imagine.
Nico, could you talk about the preparation that seems to have taken place for this case? This is a huge case. This is a big mistake.
Yeah, we don't know what it is yet. Okay, but the judge will make that determination. What I'm saying is it shouldn't happen. Let's put it that way. And yes, the government is prepared. We have put a lot of preparation in. Families have been waiting. Adrian has been waiting, and everyone's life to unfold. And so it's a big deal. And yes, we are up the information there.
What decisions does he have to make tonight? What decisions does your client have to make tonight?
We have to make a decision of what we ask for, and the judge has a lot of latitude of what he can do.
And when you hear the posse per se, I was running my own law firm. I was working with I just let my mind. What did you think about that?
We were surprised. This court.
Nico, this is a first of its kind trial. You said this is the first time this has ever happened to you in your law experience. How do you go about just even figuring out what your next step is? Because this is something that everybody seemed to be caught completely off guard.
We have to make decisions that are in the best interest of our client. We have to do it legally and ethically, and that's what we're going to do tonight. We have to weigh out our options. We have to present them to our client. We have to talk as a team, fairly ourselves or fairly. We're going to make a decision. I'm going to pray about it, and then we'll make a decision tomorrow, and we'll make arguments to the judge.
Just legally, what are the other remedies?
The judge can admonish them to excluding evidence, to be creative with a remedy to the mistrial. There's a lot. The law gives them a lot of latitude.
So ultimately, that's wrong.
So we have to make a request first, and then the judge will make a decision on the request.
What's the significance? Because this is a very unique trial already. So, the significance of this issue, of this kind of issue, especially in trials?
Well, the issue affects this case, and it affects the credibility of a witness potentially. And then you don't get a second chance and says we can't rewind. So either we ask for an extreme remedy, the judge either grants or doesn't, or we don't, and then we don't know what the result's going to be. So it's a big deal. You have to make the right decision.
Do you think we could figure out an answer tomorrow?
We as in her.
As in the judge, the prosecution.
Well, we'll make our arguments, and the judge will decide when and what he'll decide. He's not going to say waste any time.
Oh.
He's an experienced jurist. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. I have spoken.
You live again?
Live everyone.
That's horrific. All of us feel for them, and this has changed our lives. I've been through a lot personally and professionally, and I've seen a lot of things, and I feel for them.
So, in a nutshell, we kind of arrived late. What happened? What actually happened?
We have a witness that testified something different for the first time on the stand today, and actually disclosed that to the government in December. Nothing that she had interviewed before, inconsistent with what she had interviewed before, and so that was new. We're arguing it's Brady material, it's exculpatory evidence, and so we have to decide what remedy we're going to ask from the judge.
And you said you've never had a Brady case in all your time as a lawyer, correct?
A Brady violation.
Brady violation that
we've seen a lot of them, but not to this magnitude. I mean, not this is the big situation. So it was a surprise to see this.
What material difference did this indiscrepancy make to the case?
Well, the placement of the shooter is a big deal. It's a huge issue in this case, and so this witness testified very differently than what she interviewed in the past, and she disclosed this new information to the government in December of last year.
How does that
disclose us?
And then how did that affect your side?
Well, I'm not going to tell you our trial strategy. I'm just saying that the issue is where this shooter allegedly was and what our client allegedly saw. And when he saw this, if he did see it at all, it is a big deal. It's an issue of the case.
And like you said, because this is a first of its trial case, you guys want to take the time to think about this.
Well, yes, we have to make the right decision and give the right advice to our clients. Absolutely.
Before this happened, you warned the jury this is going to be a very emotional couple of weeks. What did you see in their faces? Could you glean any kind of reaction to what each side was telling them today?
I'm not going to comment on what I saw and didn't see from the jury. I just know what this case entails, and I've seen all the evidence. Emotional case. All right, guys. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Cynthia, this is a very big deal. The last witness was a teacher who testified differently than she has.
You know, it's just weird that this just had to happen in this case, you know? It's like, wow. Okay, so I have my last video that I want to show of this series of the live. I really like this couple. They do really good work. WFAA. I can try to go to my history. You know, I'm still learning my computer. I don't really, the only time I'm on it is to stream, which is not very often anymore. So it's like every time I come to my computer, it's brand new to me. It's like, how do I use this again? I put videos into a playlist, and then I can find them. And then, okay, so history. This couple right here. I really like these guys. They're really good at what they do. Oh, my computer is so slow today. I'm so sorry.
I was just saying in the comments to some of the folks on YouTube that you know, I think this is, look, we don't know what the judge is going to do. Both sides are going to go brief this issue. They're all going to find case law. They're going to come back and they're going to argue. But so we don't know what the judge is ultimately going to do yet. But it's very clear to me that the judge is taking this very seriously, and there is a very real chance that he could grant a defense motion for a mistrial. Otherwise, if he was thinking you're grasping at straws, this is ridiculous, he would just move on. He would just rule, say overruled, make your motion, move for mistrial, overruled, let's go. So the fact that he hasn't done that, I think, says a lot.
This was kind of an unexpected curveball.
Curveball of curveballs, yeah.
Because I'm trying to remember a time, and I'm sure I have seen a time when a prosecutor's been put under oath. I think it has happened, but not something like this.
Yeah, you usually see a DA investigator put on much more often because, you know, there's a reason you put the DA investigator on, because they're not one of the lawyers in the case, and they can say, I was in the room, this is what I heard, blah, blah, blah. But in this case, and I think that goes to show how seriously the prosecution's taking this, because they didn't start with the DA investigator. They said, uh-oh, this is real. Let's call the prosecutor. Let's also call the DA investigator. That way we have two people, you know, not just one memory. So yeah, it's something you don't see very often.
Okay, so just to reset, what we had was a teacher was on the stand, and she was describing what she saw and what she heard. And a really key thing that she said was she described having seen a man in black with a rifle walking on the south side. However, as we learned, she did not tell that to the Texas Rangers when she was interviewed 4 days later. And when she was interviewed prior to the trial by the DA's office, she mentioned to them that she had seen the man with the rifle, but they say she didn't mention the part about the south side. Because of the way the law is that prosecutor files have to be open, then we're potentially looking at a mistrial here. But I think that's going to be the hearing we're going to have tomorrow morning is them arguing this point.
Yes. So what the law is that you're going to hear in this argument whether or not this information is exculpatory. And why that matters is the law doesn't technically require a fully open file. That, like I was saying earlier, is probably best practice for everybody because it saves you this argument.
Right.
It saves the prosecution.
And this is exactly why we're watching Exhibit A of
Yes.
why it is best.
Yeah.
And I would say for every prosecutor's office out there that is watching this, this is why
Yeah.
an open file will save you a lot of trouble because the laws are different.
Right.
And I will say that rightfully so, because I've covered the criminal justice system for 30 years, and over and over seen cases where really important information was not handed over, and you saw people wrongfully convicted. And this is why these laws exist.
Yeah.
And they protect everybody.
Yeah. And to my prosecutor friends out there, this is why you should take notes in witness interviews and you should turn them over to the defense, because look, let's be fair to these prosecutors. You are focused on preparing for the biggest trial of your life. There are dozens, if not hundreds of witnesses. There's all these moving parts. There's all this video. There's all this body cam. It is a lot. It's impossible to keep every single piece of it in your mind all the time. And so, if you don't turn over everything, you have to trust yourself to say, I know every piece of important information, and I will hear if anything materially changes. And also, even if you think you have a perfect memory and perfect recall, it's impossible for you to know what the defense's argument is going to be, because U.S. law allows for the defense. They don't have to turn over anything.
Well, technically, they don't have to do anything.
They don't have to do anything. So I don't have to give notice of, hey, this is what I'm going to argue. The way in a civil trial, if this was a car wreck or two companies suing each other, those two sides, those two sets of lawyers know the other side's argument very well. But yeah.
Okay. They proved some good points. I really like those, that couple. They're fun to watch. And listen to them talk. You learn a lot. All right. So let's switch over now to the unaliving of the couple in Ohio. Monique and, oh God, I cannot remember the husband's name off the top of my head. I cannot remember his name. Looks like I just got to go to the beginning. Okay. This is just wild to me. So they said everybody and their brother had their passcode to their house because they hosted a lot of parties. They had a lot of parties at their house. Now, if I was hosting a lot of parties and I had a little bit of money, I definitely would have a door person. I ain't giving my code out to nobody. I mean, you can't. I'm sorry. You cannot trust anybody, even family. You just cannot trust anybody. And this is my opinion. I've seen families rip each other apart and they didn't bat an eyelash. Granted, these two might have been loved by everybody, but somebody didn't like them. Now, we all have our opinions on what could have happened. The husband could have been having an affair, allegedly, in my opinion, maybe. Maybe the husband came in, the wife he's having an affair with, and the wife woke up and he had to get rid of her too. I mean, there's so many things that we could say it was. We don't know. We just don't know what could have happened. What happened here? How does two people just end up unalived And I'm sure they've got more video than that man walking down the street. And they say now they just want to speak to him. So I don't know. It's a weird case. You just don't. All right, well, let's watch some. So this is one day ago. These are new clues into what happened.
Eve that coworkers of dentist Spencer Tepe called 911 when he didn't show up at the office.
There's a body. He appears dead. There's blood. He's laying next to his bed, off of his bed, and there's blood.
And some people are saying it's weird how all the employees all of a sudden are just calling the police because they're so concerned. You know, there are some people out there that really care about their employees. And the one guy, he's all the way in Florida. What could he have done all the way in Florida? Well, yeah, I mean, he could have paid somebody, but he's all the way in Florida. He just wants to know why his employee hadn't shown up for work. So, just weird. This whole case is weird.
And that led to a disturbing discovery of the dentist and his wife both shot dead inside their home, and their 2 young children crying from the inside, seemingly unharmed. The new details that police are now putting out to the public in hopes this mystery will be solved. We're on the case, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart.
You know what I was thinking? You know, she only had one gunshot to the chest, right? He had multiple shots. Why are they ruling out a murder suicide? She could have very well have shot herself in the chest. She could have. Why couldn't she have? Anybody can do anything. I mean, put yourself in her position. You just shot your husband several of times. What kind of frame of mind do you think she's in? Maybe she found out her husband was having an affair. Maybe she found out her husband owed a whole bunch of money because he had a gambling problem. I mean, people at different times think bad things and they will do funny things. I don't see how. I guess there was no GUN found. So I guess that was impossible. So that's not, I forgot. There was no GUN. There was no firearm found at the scene. But wouldn't that be crazy if one of the kids hit it? What if one of the kids hit it? The little girl or the little boy, little girl, whatever she is, she's 4 years old. She could easily pick that up and put it somewhere. Maybe she was scared of it. All right, let's watch this.
All right, real quick, before we start this episode of On the Case, one of the most watched shows on YouTube, I want to talk about our partner and sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, America's largest personal injury law firm. They're a firm with more than 1,000 attorneys who have recovered $25 billion from more than 500,000 clients. In the past few months alone, a client in Florida received $12 million. And this is their wedding video shot in 2021 on what appears to be the steps of the home where they were found dead on December 30th. Now, the couple had 2 kids. Reportedly, their ages were 4 and 1 years old. If there is any good news in this story, it's that those children are alive and they are physically okay. But when you watch that wedding video and you see the smiles that the Tepes had and the smiles of the people who were around the Tepes as recently as Christmas, it makes it so difficult to try to make sense of why someone would want them dead. But police say they were murdered inside their home in Columbus. Police have not said whether they believe they have suspects at this point in the case, but they did just drop a major piece of information that helps us understand what happened
and could be something that could really help crack this case. Now, before I get to that new information, I want to get you up to speed on what we know at this point in this story. Spencer and Monique, again, they lived in Columbus, Ohio. They really seemed like they were people who had their lives together. From what we could see, neither really had any criminal history. Spencer was a dentist in Athens, Ohio, which is actually quite a drive, closer to Cincinnati, but apparently he would make that drive from Columbus. His biography on the office website says that he graduated from The Ohio State University in 2017 with his Doctor of Dental Surgery degree. He was passionate, they say, about delivering the highest quality of care and a comfortable experience while building meaningful relationships with his patients. It really seemed like he loved his job, that it was his calling. And outside of work, well, he loved to golf, he loved to travel, and he loved to spend time with his family. Spencer was married to Monique Tepe. The couple had 2 children, again, believed to be 1 and 4 years old. And this couple was actually just coming up on their 5-year wedding anniversary. They were married on January 30th, 2021 in Columbus. And this is the wedding video that was shot by a family member. We spoke to them. They gave us permission to show you some of this video so you can really get an idea of the type of energy that this couple had and how they were loved by so many people and how they loved each other. And that's just what makes December 30th so difficult to comprehend, how their lives would come to an end so quickly. So we have the 911 calls from the Columbus Police Department that helps us understand a little bit about the timeline of the day and how the bodies of the Tepes were found.
Columbus Police, Tech 107.
Yes, I would like to ask for a wellness check on an individual at their home.
Police first received a call from Spencer Tepe's dental office when he didn't show up for work on December 30th.
This individual, Spencer, works with me, and he did not show up to work this morning, and we cannot get a hold of him or his family.
He didn't show up to work?
Correct.
Okay. Does he have medical problems or?
No, and he's been reliable, and we cannot get in touch with him, his wife, his family, anybody that lives in that house.
Okay. So
There's
you're
2 kids in the home. I'm in Florida. I own the business. I was informed by my employees that he was not at work, and he runs the office.
So that call was made around 9 o'clock in the morning. Spencer's boss said he was on vacation in Florida, but he was getting calls from Spencer's coworkers because they were worried about him because he didn't show up.
Have you guys received anything else, like calls about him or like a car accident or anything like that?
No, sometimes people just don't show up to work. I mean, maybe he's sick, I don't know.
No.
You know, this 911 caller, I'm not sure what type of day she was having, but man, she was getting irritated with these phone calls. But you know, that's her job. That is her job, to take emergency phone calls. Granted, maybe he could have called the non-emergency, you know, for those questions, but I've been hearing a lot of people say that the guy that owned the dentist office sounded real suspicious. Okay, for one, he's all the way in Florida. What is he going to do? When did he leave for Florida is my question. Nobody has mentioned when he has left for Florida. He was on vacation. So yeah, that's a little concerning.
Even though you hear that dispatcher say, well, it's common for people not to show up for work, maybe they got sick, his boss really seems to be pushing back on that in saying that Spencer is someone who would always show up for work. And if he wasn't going to show up for work, maybe he would call. He wouldn't just disappear on a day when he was expected to be in the office.
I just know that he is he is always on time, and he would contact us if there was any issues whatsoever. And I just don't know how else to say this. We're very, very concerned because this is very out of character. And we can't get in touch with his wife, which is probably the more concerning thing.
So that was about 9 a.m. Let's go to 9:22. That is when the first police officer arrives at the home of the Teppes, and there's no answer at the couple's door. But concerned friends, they didn't think that was good enough. So they end up going to the Teppes house to see for themselves. And they end up hearing the Teppes children inside the home. Listen to this call. This was about 10 a.m. This call is made, so about a half hour after the first police officer went to the house to check and see if anybody was there.
Okay, what's the emergency there, police or medical?
Maybe both, I guess. I don't know. I'm kind of doing the
We already
wellness.
had a call out there. They knocked on the front door and back door multiple times, and there was no answer.
Yeah, no answer. I can hear kids inside, and I swear I think I heard one yell, but we can't get in. At this point, I don't know if I need to break the door in or just get in the house or what. So.
Okay, were you out there when the police was out there?
I wasn't. I just got here about 5 minutes ago.
Okay, all right, well, we'll send them back out to you.
Then another call from Spencer's coworkers who are just so concerned that he didn't show up and they couldn't get in touch with Monique either.
Our boss did not report for work. We haven't been able to get a hold of him for 3 hours. We are on site and we can hear.
Okay,
kids
I just
inside.
talked to somebody there.
Okay, I'm just making sure somebody called.
Then 5 minutes later, another call. And this is the call where this story goes from friends and coworkers concerned about a dentist who didn't show up for work and maybe his wife wasn't by her phone. This story ends up becoming incredibly disturbing. And it goes to the level where we are right now, which is a murder investigation.
911, what's the location of your emergency? Okay, we've got several calls on that. What's changed since the last person I talked to?
There's a body. There's a body.
There's a body inside?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me get you on the line with the medic, okay? Stay on the line.
As the caller waits, you can hear what sounds like small children in the background. The two children of the Teppes were not harmed, again, believed to be 1 and 4 years old, but they were inside the house and they were calling for help, it sounds like.
There's a body. Our friend wasn't answering his phone. We just did a wellness check. We just came here, and he appears dead.
Okay.
There's blood. He's laying next to his bed, off of his bed, and there's blood. I can't get closer to see more than that.
Okay. So you can tell he's obviously not breathing or anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it like kind of like huddle, like, you know, does he look like?
It doesn't look puddled. I can't look.
Okay. All right. I understand. Okay. And then when was the last time somebody spoke to him?
Yesterday, I suppose.
Yesterday. Okay.
Yeah.
How old is he?
37.
37. Okay. Is he like a drug user or anything like that?
No.
Okay. All right. Just that's a really young age.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. All right. We're on our way.
Now, the concerned friend saw Spencer's body inside the home. So then here's dispatch. This is a recording that we have from Broadcastify of police putting out the word that they're going to need to get more units to the Teppes house.
The car saying they can hear kids inside. Thought you heard one of them yelling. Now we're getting another call saying there's a body inside. That's receiving copy.
Who's saying there's a body inside?
When police went inside the home, that is when they found Spencer dead, as well as his wife, Monique. WSYX TV says that Dr. Teppe was shot multiple times, and Monique had at least one gunshot wound to the chest. Now, police don't have a murder weapon, and they don't believe that this is a murder-suicide. There are also no signs, they say, of forced entry into the home. The couple's children, again, were unharmed. Now, a key tool for law enforcement may be a police camera, which is posted right across the street from the Teppes house. This is according to the Columbus Dispatch. The newspaper said that police would not confirm to them whether anything was caught on that camera or whether it was operational, whether it was on the night that the Teppes were killed. So let's get to the big piece of information that we learned over the weekend as law enforcement are now asking for the public for help in trying to solve this case, because police have seemed to now narrow down the timeline of when they think the Teppes may have been killed. Originally, on January 2nd, police put out a notice saying that they were looking for any video that someone may have, maybe it's cell phone, dash cam, ring camera, surveillance, whatever it may be. They wanted it in the area of the Teppes home on December 30th from midnight to 9 o'clock in the morning. So that's roughly the timeline of the night before to when coworkers started calling police. But now police have narrowed down the timeline even more, because they were asking for video between 2 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the morning on December 30th. Now, again, we do believe that Spencer Teppe, the dentist, was found dead, shot multiple times inside his bedroom. It has not officially been reported as of yet where Monique was in the house, but according to WSYX, she had at least one gunshot wound, so potentially less than her husband did when they were found dead. Also, the television station's reporting that 9mm shell casings were found at the scene. But there's still just so many questions right now about this investigation. Like, what door did the killer come in? Was it a back door that was maybe left unlocked? The front door, it does appear that there's a Ring doorbell camera. Was that operational? Did that capture anything that could help law enforcement? Now, police have said that it is unclear if the Teppes knew their killer personally, if there was any sort of motive that could have prompted an attack like this, whether this was a targeted attack. It's also unclear if anything was taken from the Teppes' home. Now, the Columbus Dispatch newspaper did say that there is a mention of a call for a 41A, which is code for a robbery report. The newspaper says they have not received further information from police at this point about what that means. That was on a dispatcher report. Neighbors have also said that this part of Columbus, where this took place, it is relatively peaceful. This is not a high crime area, which makes all of this incredibly concerning. Now, the family for the Teppes have launched a GoFundMe page, and it is getting a lot of money. As of Monday morning, there's...
Now, I watched, I think Surviving the Survivor, and there was a guy on there speaking, and he said that that area is high crime rate. So, which one is it? I would show you, but I don't want to play his stuff because I don't want to get in trouble.
More than $130,000 that's been raised. A description on that GoFundMe, which was written by one of the couple's cousins, reads like this, quote, "Our family is devastated by the tragic and senseless loss of Spencer and Monique Teppe. They were extraordinary people whose lives were filled with love, joy, and deep connection to others. Their presence was as big as their hearts. Monique's charm and infectious smile lit up every room. She was warm with a strength that inspired everyone around her. Spencer was the soul of every gathering, grand in personality, yet calm, steady, and kind. Together, they were truly remarkable inside and out. They were a solid pair with a bright future. They were the proud parents of two beautiful children, and every day they showed up with unwavering love and devotion to their family. The abrupt loss of Spencer and Monique has changed daily life in ways that are still unfolding. This fund exists to help provide stability and care for their children and the immediate family members who are supporting them during this time. The outpouring of love has meant more than words can express. Thank you for helping support the children as the family together takes each day one step at a time." Joining us now to talk about this case, where it could go from here, is retired NYPD detective David Sarney. It's always great to have you on Law and Crime. At the time we're recording this, still no arrests. We know that police in Columbus, Ohio, they're asking for video from the public to potentially help them put together this case. When you hear that, what does that mean about where this investigation is at this point, that they're looking for video and looking for help from the public?
Anytime, thank you for having me again, but anytime you're doing extended video cameras, there are cameras they may not be able to see, or there may be neighbors they haven't been able to speak to. So that's why they'll put it out there, because, they're looking for a finite area. But in this investigation, they've already done a canvas for video. They're all looking surveillance videos. But there are cameras that are covert that some residents may have that they did not see or aware of or did not in contact with. So they're putting that out there for general information to see if we can, develop more of a timeline. And not only that, to get anything on video that's possible leads to to finding out who killed these two people.
And originally, when Columbus police put out their request for video, the time frame they were looking for, it was December 30th from midnight to 9 o'clock in the morning. And around 9 a.m. was when the phone call started to come in because Spencer Tepe did not show up for work at the dental office. It has since been kind of trimmed down that police are looking for video from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. on the 30th. How might police be able to narrow that? What does that tell you that they say, no, it's not midnight to 9 a.m. We just want to know what was going on from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. How do you get there?
Well, that might be coming from interviews of individuals out there. They might have come from, they also have their own video. They also have a camera, a surveillance camera that's in the area. So that might have, as they reviewed that, there's a possibility they might have gotten something from that. You're seeing some of the things that are going on in that building and that with that camera. So they got access to that camera. So they might be able to hone it down based on the camera video footage they received from that. Not only that, any interviews that they have and any other prior camera videos that they already received from anyone else right now so that they could bring down a little time frame to that.
Could that potentially mean that they have, because to this point from the public, police really have said nothing. We've heard the 911 calls and we know when the authorities were being brought in. This case is such a mystery because it just seems like this couple was beloved by a lot of people. No real criminal record. I think there was like a traffic, issue that came up years ago for one of them. But, these aren't, it doesn't seem like, drug dealers or something like that. It just seems so bizarre. With the narrowing of the time frame, does that tell you that police might have something somewhere that makes them say, okay, this is when this happened for sure?
And again, it's a possibility. And, with these investigations, a lot of times they want to leak any information out.
Just because they look okay on the outside doesn't mean that everything is okay on the inside. I'm sorry, but when a person is got money and they are enjoying that money, they want more money. They want more money to make themselves more happy. So what do people do that have money that want to make more money? They usually get caught up in some bad things. All the time. So just because they don't look like your regular drug dealers or things like that does not mean that they're not.
Because you don't want to have people know what you know. And that's one thing about these murder investigations. So they're going to get information for you or from the public. So they could have gotten this time frame from any part of the investigative steps that they've already done. You're looking at, when you get to the scene, you're looking for things that are there. You have two bodies. What type of dress are they wearing? Between 2 and 5 a.m. Were they in their bedclothes? Were they ready to go to work? So things like that come into play. Things that may also be there: cell phones, financial records, wallet, money, anything they're looking for that should be there that isn't there, or is there that might have helped them lead to get that time frame available.
And we don't know at this point whether anything was taken from the house or if this was particularly targeted to one of them. But Spencer Tepe, according to reports, was shot more than his wife. He was shot multiple times. She has at least one gunshot. What can you take away from that? Is that a coincidence, or is that something that tells you that this was someone going after the dentist first?
Is it a possible relationship that was between, that was involved these two? In other words, that's why you're going to do a deeper dive in financial records for both individuals to see something else. Any prior relationships they had that went sour and went awry, any communications they had with anyone else who had may not have liked them or liked anything about them. There's a lot of things saying they're great people, but there's always someone out there who dislikes them. Now the question then comes into who was shot first. They won't be able to tell you at that point because of but the amount of shots is very interesting because one victim shot numerous times, one shot once. Was that done in front of the person? Those are things you're looking at. So there may be some sort of anger towards one of the two unfortunate deceased persons to create that type of scene where you have multiple shots on one and one shot on the other.
And you look at some of the evidence that we know that they've gathered, and this is also a lot of this coming through media reports because Columbus police haven't said too much, but it is believed that they have some 9mm shell casings that they were able to find at the scene. They don't have the murder weapon, to our knowledge at this point. What type of evidence can you take away from shell casings found at the scene?
Well, shell casings are great for ballistics because, sometimes we talk about shell casings, the amount of time some people may involve themselves in a shooting. Sometimes they've picked up these shell casings. In this case, they didn't. So there might have been so many out there. We don't know how many shots were put onto each victim. We know there was one and numerous, but with these shell casings, they can trace them in a sense. They can track them to see if there's a case-to-case match. In other words, they could look at the ballistics on the 9mm casings there and see if there's any matches to the federal and local database, the state database, to see if there's a case-to-case match with that firearm. And if there isn't, and that sometimes happens, that means there's still going to be more investigative lead, but that's something available to you now. So you have something. So if you do recover the firearm, then you could actually do a comparison if necessary.
How often do shooters pick up their shell casings to try and conceal evidence?
We've seen, some individuals, some perpetrators know what they're doing. It's rare it happens because the shell casings, when they eject, they can go different locations. I would say with shell casings, can they be grabbed? Yes. It depends on the amount of time someone has. It's rare it happens because of the way the ejection ports from the firearm can send the casings to the left or right, and they bounce around. So that's one thing that make it difficult. But an inside residential location, is it possible? Yes. Fortunately, the shell cases were not picked up, probably because the amount of rounds or shots were put into both individuals, maybe one shot. And if shell casings aren't located, it's a possibility to use a revolver because shell casings aren't ejected for a revolver. But fortunately for the investigators here, they have at least another lead, which is those shell casings, which they can do comparison to see if that firearm was utilized in any other criminality or any other instance.
And we don't know who the shooter is at this point. We don't know who they are. But the fact that they would leave shell casings, does that say something about that this was a person who's never done this before? This might not be a career criminal, someone who's trying to cover their tracks, that this is someone who came into the house, obviously, fired multiple shots at Spencer Tepe, and then took his wife Monique's life as well. The kids were unharmed, but then leaves, what could be some very critical evidence at the scene.
These are things we don't think of because people in the heat of the moment don't think that way. And people always think about the action they're doing. They don't think of the aftermath. And that's what we see in a lot of times with these cases is you see people think about the crime, but not the aftermath. Like they could do the event, but the post-event is where they make mistakes. And that's why investigators will feed on those mistakes because that's the whole thing. We exploit them. And that's why these crime scenes are so meticulously done because you want to make sure you get everything. This is a house of residence. So that house, I guarantee, was checked from top to bottom, from basement to ceiling to make sure everything was recovered that was available. And if there's anything forensically involved, that's why with the locations of the bodies, with the bodies moved, where the infant living in the room with the parents, where they had another room. So these are things you're thinking of when you're doing this. You're always thinking about and eventually you'll get to the why, but you want to make sure you have all the factual information available to you now. So this way you can pinpoint not only just the time, but the people or persons involved. Because we don't know if it's a one person thing or more than one person. We also don't know if these individuals if they were tied up because the Columbus Police Department didn't tell anybody about that. So we don't know what the situation is. Were they met at the scene? Was someone at the door when they were brought into the house? Did they get into the house because the door was unlocked? What did they know about the family to get into that house is another thing you have to look at.
Because the part for me that I come back to is through the 911 calls, we know that somebody saw a body. And I believe it's the body of Spencer Tepe is who the 911 caller sees, says, oh my God, there's a body, please come. They see blood, and it's in a bedroom. And then now you have this time frame of 2 a.m. to 5 a.m., which you would presume that someone is sleeping, especially because Spencer Tepe was supposed to go to work the next day, and it's a decent drive from where he was. But then there's no forced entry. So, you think of like if this is a home burglary, the guy breaks in through the door, whatever it may be, or guy, girl, whoever it is, but, they break into the house and then, someone is sleeping. Maybe they leave their door open, but it's still, Columbus, Ohio it's a city. Not a lot of people leave their doors open. How do looking at kind of facts like that as an investigator, like how do you work through that and trying to put together the step-by-step of what you think happened?
Well, that's what you're looking for also. Where are the keys? Is this house using keys? Because there are different types of locks now. You have punch locks, so I don't know what they have. But, the question will be is, okay, if they have keys, where are those keys? Was there a vehicle that they have? Was that vehicle removed? Can we locate that vehicle? Was it in the driveway? Was it on the street? These are things you're looking at on each part. So when you start, like I said, there's a pre and post event. We're looking at the post-event because we don't know when we have an idea of when it happened. We don't know the amount of time that took place to have it happen, but we have a time frame in which we know something happened with that 3-hour gap. Was it in 15 minutes or 20 minutes? Where are the keys? Are the keys placed in somewhere where you can always access them? Wallets. Were there wallets available? And that goes back to the style of dress. Were they sleeping in bed when this person entered the apartment and entered their house? We don't know that right now based on the information they have. But I'll tell you, the investigators have a good time frame because I guarantee you they've spoken to family members, they've spoken to friends about their natural daily habits of how they deal with things on a regular basis. These are things they've already looked at. So that's why it's able to hone in on this information right now. But it comes back to, again, we do not know why they were shot, and we don't know who was shot.
And law enforcement keeping things really close to the vest in a lot of ways, beyond getting the 911 calls from the city of Columbus, helped us kind of piece together about how the response looked. It's almost been a week. So this happened on December 30th. We're now January 5th. What does that timeline tell you? I mean, is there kind of that cause for concern if there's not an arrest in the next couple of days that law enforcement may actually be, kind of scraping the barrel when it comes to evidence, trying to figure things out?
I don't think it's scraping the barrel necessarily. I think what they're doing is they're just not going to tell you everything. They've said this looks like it's an isolated incident. That's what they have based on what we have. And that's one thing you're looking at. So they're not looking at anything more than what it is. The problem is everyone wants this solved right away and cleared right away with an arrest. It takes time because you have to develop probable cause. You're still looking for the body. I mean, that's what you're doing. You're still looking for a person of interest, the suspect in it. The evidence that you have at the scene will help you lead to that. The autopsy, they said, take 8 to 10 weeks. They probably look at toxicology and all of that. Those are things we see, but now we have to look at other things we have to look at, and this is what investigators do. That's why all these extra questions that you have in your head and all these ideas come into your head, and that's why when we do these meetings, it's not just one investigator, but as a group of investigators with the supervisor, just talking these things out and seeing what we have, what do we have available to us to continue this investigation to further finding the person who was involved in this or persons.
No, very good point. And I think too, going down to that 3-hour time frame, you see a little bit of progress here moving forward. Just a scary case in general. These are two people that seem to, again, just seem to be really beloved, and they end up dead, and we'll see what happens next. You certainly think of their 2 young children as well. Retired NYPD Detective David Sarney, it's always great to have you.
Gosh, just a sad story, right? Like, I hope we find out what happened to him because that's just scary and sad, At least they didn't harm the children. At least they didn't harm the children. So we got to give the person credit for that. But anyways, that's all I got for today, everybody. Just go over the Uvalde. I guess Nick Reiner had a court today. I'm not sure what happened to that. Guess I'll have to watch it. I don't know if they have that live or not. But I got to go make a car payment and things like that. I got some things I have to do. But you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow morning. I will start an hour later, just so we can work through the lunch hour, that we can keep watching it. It's just, I like to keep my trials to trials only. I don't like to put other things in the live just because it confuses people when they do go to watch the replay. So we'll start like an hour and 15 minutes later, give them an extra 15 minutes to get themselves ready to go. I guess it all depends on what happens today, really. But anyways, you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I really appreciate everybody here that's here in the replay. Almost getting close to those hours. I think I have 200 and some hours to go. So I'm excited about that. And I did it all on my own. I didn't have, with you guys watching it, I'm saying. All right. Well, you guys have a good night. Thank you. And bye-bye.